I was attracted by a story that Mossad, the renowned Israeli spy service, its secret service, is looking to recruit agents and spies. They're promising a glamorous lifestyle, jetting around the world. There will be some danger, but the money's good. This is apparently the world's second biggest secret service. It is feared, it is ruthless, and frankly, it is well known to be something of an assassination organisation. It goes round killing people of whom they do not approve. So, quite an organisation. Why is it so feared? Why, for such a small country, does it have such a massive spy service? What is the story of Mossad? Let's talk to the eminent espionage expert Nigel West, who's on the phone now. Hello, Nigel.
Good morning.
Mossad. Israel is quite a small country. Why does it have such a massive spy organization? Why does it have an agency that traverses the globe? Why is it so ruthless? Why is it well known to be an assassination squad?
Well, the answer is that it isn't and it doesn't. There are various intelligence agencies in Israel, and probably the most prolific and the best resourced is one that people have never heard of, called Amman, and that's the military intelligence service. Mossad itself is a very small organization and tends to get the credit or the blame for clandestine operations that are conducted around the globe, whereas they may have absolutely nothing to do with Mossad. Let me give you a couple of examples. The rescue of the falashas from Ethiopia, the raid on Entebbe, the Cherbourg gunboats, all of those operations were conducted not by Mossad, but Mossad got the credit for them. Mossad itself is a very small organization, and that's a big handicap. When it runs large operations overseas, I'm talking about having up to 25 people deployed on a particular mission, it will dip into the Israeli Defense Forces for volunteers. So people will be taken from the Defense Forces doing their military service, then deployed briefly on a Mossad operation, and then returned to their military ranks.
Okay.
And that's how Mossad operates. And it's also just worth noting, you mentioned that it has this global reputation. The reality is that Mossad operates at a huge disadvantage because it cannot run operations from diplomatic premises protected by the Vienna Convention in most of its target countries. So if you think it wants to collect intelligence in what? Jordan, Iran, Iraq,
in particular, yeah.
Libya, Somalia, Sudan, all of those target countries, which are the front line for Israel, it can't operate in unless it resorts to very expensive, complicated, non-official cover operations, which involves volunteers who may have spent 10 or 15 years building up a fake legend in order to be able to be infiltrated into a target country, where they will be very vulnerable and subject to arrest if they're caught.
Now, Mossad's sort of in the showbiz news at the moment because it is the subject of a Apple TV series called Tehran. Obviously, the Israeli government and indeed its secret services are concerned about Iran. I think they spend a lot of time looking for villains there. And on November the 27th, a guy called Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, an Iranian nuclear scientist on Israel's most wanted list, was shot dead in a machine gun ambush in the middle of Tehran. This is being attributed to Mossad, and you're sort of shooting this down slightly, but this seems to be, rightly or wrongly, the ruthless reputation that they have for this kind of assassination.
Well, it's true that unlike most intelligence agencies around the world, Mossad has a huge advantage, and that is political support. So the Prime Minister's office traditionally signs off on all high-risk Mossad operations, and Mossad operates as an instrument of political power. So it's the Prime Minister who is, in effect, directing these operations or identifying the intelligence collection priorities. Then Mossad is deployed. And you can see this in numerous examples in the past. If you are talking about the operations being conducted in Tehran to sabotage the development of nuclear weapons, much the same thing happened a few years ago in Egypt, when German rocket scientists were employed in Egypt in order to develop ballistic missiles that would reach Israel. Mossad warned off the German scientists, then started sending them letter bombs, and they got the message, and they stopped working for the Egyptian government. And the same kind of deterrence operation, all of these people will have been warned. If you continue to work on this kind of activity, you're putting your life at risk. And then they will deploy assassins. And the characteristic, incidentally, of these particular operations are that the weapons that are used are attached to plastic bags so that there are no cartridge cases left at the scene of the crime. So for any kind of forensic reconstruction, there's very little evidence to collect.
Yeah, interesting. Now, you have written a book called Spycraft Secrets. On a sort of shallow basis, Mossad apparently looking for recruits. Is it a glamorous job? Would it be a glamorous job working for Mossad?
In many ways, yes. Unlike most intelligence agencies, where the work is pretty boring and the collecting of intelligence is largely open source, the Israelis, for the reasons that I've described, are at a huge disadvantage. And so, therefore, the personnel who are deployed overseas are well-funded, very well-resourced, well-supported, and there is a lot of social kudos attached in Israeli society to people who have devoted part of their careers to Mossad. So it's considered to be a very honorable profession within that particular society. Although there have been quite a few disasters and quite a few examples of an amateurish operation.
Yeah, I mean they're not perfect, but they do have this sort of fearsome reputation, and I think it's very interesting. And I thank you, Nigel, for giving us a little glimpse into inside their secret world. Thank you so much.